Everyone, welcome to week 2 of building server systems. So this week we're really going to dive into energy. We will deal a lot with energy throughout the semester. That's one of the major systems in a building that we will evaluate, that being energy systems, so HVAC in particular, heating and cooling, ventilation. So I want to make sure that you understand energy, where it comes from, different sources. We're going to go over like coal and oil, natural gas, nuclear, all that stuff. So we really want to have a good sense of what energy is, where energy comes from, where it goes, how it's used. Also, we'll go over energy conversion, so like how energy is converted from one form to another. That's a really important part of HVAC in a building, because you're converting one energy source like natural gas into heat, which then you're providing to the building. Sometimes you put it in water and a hydronic system. So the point is, in order to understand how a building operates and how it's heated and cooled, you need to understand energy basics. So we'll go over that this week. You also go over a few, practice some more energy calculations. Again, that's something that we'll be doing a lot this semester. So it's really important you understand how to convert from one energy unit to another. We will also go over the difference between efficiency and conservation. This is something that people tend to conflate, but there is an important difference between energy efficiency and energy conservation. Efficiency is basically using an piece of equipment to get the same amount of energy out, but putting less energy in. So the most common example would be an energy efficient light bulb, like an LED. You're getting the same amount of light as an incandescent, but as you'll see, you're putting in about 1/5 to 1/6 the energy in to get that light out. So that's a really good example of efficiency, but efficiency is all over the place. It's a really important part of reducing the use and the cost and the emissions from buildings. So we'll go over the difference there. Where conservation, on the other hand, is energy in the first place, but you're not getting as much energy out. So to extend the example of the light bulb, with efficiency, you're getting, if you have a more efficient light bulb like an LED and you leave it on for the same amount of time as an incandescent, you get this, right? Like you're getting the same light out of it for the same amount of time. You're just using less energy. With conservation, in terms of lighting, the easiest example to think of is just turning the light off, right? So you are still saving energy and money and all that, but you're getting less light out because you're turning it off. So conservation usually involves a behavior change, whereas efficiency, you don't have to change your behavior at all. You just, change your equipment. So that is important to understand the difference between those two. I wanted to go over that briefly. That's a good overview of this week. In terms of last week's content, seems like everyone was in pretty good shape. Your basic building math, that's a review. You all did well on that. With the scientific notation, no problem. Engineering notation, just be careful. Remember, engineering notation has to be a multiple of 3, and just be careful which direction you go. In other words, if you're converting megawatts to watts, remember a megawatt is much bigger than a watt. So if you're going from how many watts in a 10 megawatts, it's 10 million watts, right? So it's a lot more watts. And some of you just went the other direction, like 0.0001 watts, where that just, if you think about it logically, it just doesn't make sense, right? So sometimes you need to take a step back and just look at your numbers and say, does this make sense? And if you're going from megawatts to watts, it has to be bigger. The watts have to be bigger. And we really use a lot of metric prefixes this semester. We'll be using MMBTU all the time. So remember, MMBTU is a million BTUs. That's a really common unit in energy. So that's certainly something you need to know. The bigger ones, the bigger metric prefixes like mega and giga, that's more important to know. We really won't use the smaller ones like milli or pico or whatever. So just keep that in mind, that it's going to be important to understand, especially MMBTUs. But that's about it for the review of last week. Everyone seems to be, seems to have gotten off to a really good start. I hope that continues. And I hope you have a great second week of the semester. And of course, if you have any questions, you reach out at any time.